This is core flow. It's an intermediate level practice, and we'll be working with either a block or a throw pillow, whatever you have today. So beginning on your back, please have your hands on your abdomen, maybe one hand right below your navel, and have the other hand right on the chest over the heart center. Settle the weight of your legs through your feet, through your sacrum, through your upper back. Notice the physical manifestation of your breath, the rise and fall of your abdomen, the side of your ribs, the chest. And I also invite you to use your imagination to recognize that the air we breathe in, the essence of our breath, is intimately connected with everything else. We breathe it out, it recycles back into another life, plant, human, animal. Our breath is the foundation also of our core. And this is why we begin with breath, to get this rhythmic movement of the lid of our core, which is a respiratory diaphragm. You can take your hands now if you'd like to the side ribs, or feel free to keep at least one hand on your heart or on your belly, whatever helps you to feel grounded. Invite a sense of spaciousness all the way to the bottom of your abdomen. Invite a sense of just gentle lifting all the way into your heart center. And then as you exhale, you can settle your hands wherever feels good for you. So I'm going to recommend hands to the front hip points, and we're just going to rock back till you feel your buttocks flesh start to come up off the floor a little bit. And then you're going to settle down and rock back. Just feel the tiniest little bit of your tailbone, your glutes lift. And you might also be aware of your back pressing into the floor, the back shifting into you. So a couple more just like this. And then I want us to each take our block or our pillow and take it in the widest position you can between your legs. Walk your feet in, float your feet up, and bring the hands behind the head. We're going to take these imaginary squats for strength on our back, drawing your knees in and pressing the legs out. Drawing the knees in, probably the block or pillow will hit your abdomen. That's totally fine. You can adjust it to whatever works for you. Draw it in. Maybe feel your tailbone lift up a little bit here. And if this angle of your knees doesn't work for you, you can always bring your feet together and try to let your knees go out to the side. Sometimes external rotation feels a little bit better on the hips than this straight on flexion. So we'll just do about 3 to 4 more. Imagine as you straighten your legs that you're really pushing away a heavy, heavy wall, sliding out, and then draw your knees in and start to draw some circles. Coming back through to center, reach the legs up. If you've got a throw pillow, just make it a little bit less folded in between your legs, and start to draw circles with your legs straight. When I say straight, I mean just a little bit of bend if that's your normal. Like, this is actually quite normal to have a bend in your knees when your legs are up like this. Invite the circles in the other direction. We're starting to churn, we're starting to fire up the center of our bodies to create this spiraling strength and core action. And then draw everything in And let's just set the block or the pillow off to the side for a moment. Settle your feet right back down to the ground. And we're going to take an action that's borrowed from something called the Turkish get up. But you're going to recognize little components of yoga inside of this. So you're going to keep your feet where they are, but roll a little bit with momentum to your right. Come up onto your right elbow and punch your left arm up to the sky. So there's an element of side plank. There's an element of a twist happening here. Come back down onto your back. Same thing, other side. Both arms start up towards the ceiling. Drive your elbow down. Press and lift. And down. Arms up. Press and lift. If you want, you can also straighten out the same side leg. It might make it actually a little bit easier to do that, so it helps you to get a bit of momentum. And I want you to imagine, as you go back and forth, side to side, that you're holding a little teacup, or that you're poking straight into the ceiling. Keep staying connected to breath. Keep staying connected to side movement here. As I adjust. And then eventually I want you to keep both legs out in front of you. And as you turn to one side, take also your other elbow back behind you. So now what we're going to do are really interesting partial sit-ups. I hope you're not too scared of the word sit-up, but these really interesting partial sit-ups where we're going to start with the elbows out, and then arms reach up, and then exhale, drive the elbows down, and press up, right? Elbows out, arms reach up, press, and up. Now, what I just did is the, believe it or not, kind of the intro version. So when you bring your elbows right underneath your shoulders, this is the more preliminary version. If you want to make it more challenging for yourself, and you can keep going, connecting with breath, connecting with the fire in your core, you can actually keep your elbows like out to the side. This is way harder to hold up. My elbows are at about upper arms at a 45-degree angle. So reaching the fist up, and rise, and up, and rise, and up, and rise. And let's just do 2 more of these before I get too warm. And then as you're ready, draw your knees back into your chest and rock a little side to side. We're going to settle the feet down to the floor, but not for too long, okay? So right hand stays behind the head. Left leg is going to march up part way, right? Left arm is going to reach to the outside and then to the inside of this leg that is lifted. So crossing your body. Exhale, reach, inhale down. Exhale, reach in, inhale down. Exhale, reach out, inhale down. Exhale, reach in, inhale down. One more time to the outside. One more time to the inside. Keeping the head pressing lightly into the hands is actually a really great way to make sure that you're not yanking on your neck. Give yourself a moment to settle. Maybe sweep your knees a little to the right and a little to the left. And as you come back through to center, left hand replaces the right. Left leg replaces the right leg. Arm reaches up. And one of the curious things here I want you to pay attention to is what differences you notice one side to the next. And see if you can replicate the harder side in your home practice on a daily basis, even if it's just 3 to 5 minutes. As you exhale, right ribs curl up, reach to the outside. Inhale down. Exhale, reach to the inside. Inhale down. Exhale outside. Inhale down, connecting with breath, your pace. Try to always keep a little bit of space between your chin and the front of your chest. And last one, curl it in, bring up both legs, reach forward with both of your arms right between your legs, and then combine the movement we did earlier. Imagine you still have the block between your legs. Reach and in. Feel free to put your head down if you need to, but keep your ribs dropping down. Feel free to support your head for something that's a little bit halfway there. Reach and in. Press away that heavy wall of whatever it is that's going on for you today, for our world. Press and in. Press and in. 2 to 3 more. Moving at your breath pace. And then settle down. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself some love. We're going to reach the legs long on the mat. And we're going to start in this position because we're going to end up with one leg at 90 degrees. This 90 degrees position is very similar to a single leg deadlift, right? But it's also the same thing when we're upright as Warrior 3. So, that's what it looks like as you are ready. You're going to reach your left arm to the sky and the right leg to the sky as well. Activate the leg that's still on the ground, and then just reach, tap, and down. Reach, tap, and down. Reach, tap, and down. Doesn't matter where you tap on the leg. 4. And last one, 5. Stay down. Hands can be behind the head or elbows by your side. You're going to float your left leg up, and then take both of your legs away from the midline, and then back to center. Both of your legs away, back to center. Keeping them in the same plane where they started, either hovering over the floor or vertical 90 degrees. Keeping your back and your torso rooted. Last one. Draw your knees in. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. Just notice that flush of energy in through the leg that was lifted, the right leg. Shake it out a little bit. Straighten out through your legs. Reach your right arm up, reach your left leg up, and we're going to tap 5 times. So go ahead and curl and tap and inhale down. Exhale, curl and tap. Inhale down. Exhale, curl and tap. Inhale down. 4 and 5. Again, noticing if one side is remarkably easier or more challenging than the other. And as you come on down, pick your hand position. I'm going to keep my hands kind of lightly rooted here in the center this time. You're going to, again, stay connected through your back, float your bottom leg, open the legs to the side, and back to center. Out and in. Out and in. Out. I can't move as much right here, so this side is interestingly not as challenging for me. But I wonder if it's my own body or my own side. So on my own, I'm going to find that out. That's the kind of thing that I'm going to write down in my little home practice journal. And as you come back in, draw your knees to your chest, rock a little side to side. Scoop your hands behind the legs, and I'll give you a couple different options. If rocking on your back does not feel good, maybe you have a wood floor, do what you need to do to come up to an upright seat. But if you feel okay here, try with your hands on the front of your shins. You're going to curl your spine, lift your tailbone, and float. And we're going to do this a few times. So curl, float. And then last one, try to keep your feet lifted off the floor as you do this. And go ahead and settle your feet, really tap it down really lightly. Grab a hold of your block or your throw pillow, or, honestly, you can even do this just with your hands in a fist. We're going to lean back a little bit. Now, the action that's keeping us upright is actually our hip flexors. So it's psoas, iliopsoas, rectus femoris, all of these muscles that are really active in bringing your thigh closer to your chest. When we curl the spine, we'll actually start to recruit more of our abdominal wall. And it's not that one is better than the other, it's that they're completely different. So experiment a little bit and allow your spine to maybe curl more than you have historically. So we're curling back, leaning to one side, stay connected with breath. Inhale, curl to center. Curl back, lean to the other side. Stay connected to breath. Inhale, center. Curl, reach. This is our Navasana variation, right? Except that the feet are grounded. So guess what? If you want to make it harder, come onto your tiptoes. If you want to make it harder still, float your feet. If you want to make it harder still, straighten out your legs. Side to side in whatever version of those doesn't give you a cramp, right? Here's where I am today. Breathe. Let the fire burn, but also be kind in your body. And as you come back through to center, just give yourself a moment to rest, maybe with the head between the knees, breath into the back body. And we got to do some side body stuff. So turning onto your side, sitting in what I call mermaid sit, we can use the block again here to really play with activating side body. Now, the first variation is just to lean, try to tap your elbow down and up. And if that's really not much going on for you there, you can always straighten your arms up towards the ceiling, lean and rise. And keep the arms reaching as you lean and lift, lean and lift, lean and lift. And let's just do 2 more, just like this. Inhale up, hands come to heart center. Set your block down for a moment so that you can reach back and without using your hands, maybe even without using your feet, come to the other side. So same thing on the other side. We're going to grab a hold of the block and either keep it close to your chest, leaning your elbow to that same side, right? Or arms up above. We've got 2 more. Last one, come back through to center and set your block down for the moment. Stretch it out, downward facing dog. Rooting your hands. Don't try to be a hero here in your first down dog of the day. Just allow yourself to just kind of settle in, squeeze in. No rush to get your heels to the floor, no rush even to go full length. Shift, wiggle, and shimmy in whatever way would feel good. And then one thing I like to do in down dog that I'll pass on to you guys is I like to actually use my sticky mat to spread my toes more than they would normally go on their own. And to really point my first toe, my big toes forward, as if I'm trying to like undo a bunion, and then I lift and lower. So shoes start to cramp our toes here, and lifting and lowering the heels is actually a really powerful way to train ourselves to use the power of our big toes. It's just a little thing. Settle down to your knees and shift back just a moment. So if you're ready to go into something active already, take your time if you're not, you can come onto forearms here. Straighten out through your legs and find your way into a forearm plank. Stay connected. You'll notice that I'm just a slight bit rounded in my upper back, and that's a really important part of really connecting through the abdomen and not hanging in the hip flexors and the low back. So front hip points up, glutes active, upper body rounded slightly. Go ahead and lower down to your knees and take a rest. The hybrid of those two, of course, is dolphin pose or downward facing dog on your forearms. So now we're going to root down, round the upper back, curl the toes, and pause along the way before we get there. Hover the knees, shift a little forward and back. You don't have to do anything big here. If you one day aspire to doing forearm balance, Pinchamayurasana, handstand, just taking the weight in this way, making sure you've built up the stamina and the ability to go a little right, a little left, and still stay strong might be a nice precursor to building that up. Make your way to dolphin, and we'll take 3 breaths in dolphin. If you tend to shove your ribs forward, draw your low ribs in, breathing into the back body. The history, our ancestry, the back body represents. And then go ahead and settle to your knees again. Wiggle yourself down onto your abdomen, and very much like when we were doing the partial sit-ups, I think they're called Black Widow sit-ups, but I don't know for sure. You're going to come into the diamond shape with your forearms. And elbows are much wider than shoulders here. And as I draw it in, I'm pulling the ribs off the yoga mat too. Inhale, settling down, so this is actually a bit of a resting pose, and exhale, curling everything up like I'm trying to coil away from the floor. Inhale down, exhale, curl it up. Pelvis stays down, inhale down, exhale, curl ribs off the floor, elbows underneath the shoulders, rise into your forearm plank again. And this time we're going to take a little bit of a seesaw action. So shift forward and back. Jigsaw maybe, not seesaw. And then last 2 of these jigsaw motions. Settle your knees. Walk your hands back. Come into downward facing dog. We're going to walk the feet forward from down dog. And on your inhale, rise halfway up. So you're coming into this Ardha Uttanasana shape. From Ardha Uttanasana, bring one hand to your chest, one hand to your abdomen, just like we did earlier in the practice when we were lying on our backs. Lift a little higher. Fold a little more. Lift a little higher. Fold a little more. As you do this, make sure your spine doesn't round or back bend. And try to keep the legs as active as they can be. They don't have to be fully straight, but you want them to be active from your toes all the way up. We're warming up the hips, believe it or not. And then as you inhale, rise all the way up and take a little bit of space between your feet. Shoulder distance is great. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, palms over the heart. Turn your toes out slightly and sit down into a little bit of a squat. Elbows might touch your knees. Inhale, stand. Exhale, squat. Inhale, stand. 2 more. Chair pose, but more dynamic, more responsive to the environment. And then go ahead and take your feet far out to the sides. We're going to turn one set of toes out and just bend and straighten into that leg. And if you put your hands again on your torso, you can get this great feedback about where your torso is in space. Try not to go into a back bend or into any kind of flexion. Take it to the other side. Warrior 2 legs, Virabhadrasana legs. Coming back through to center. This time, hybridizing the things we just did. So that little squat action with the lateral lunges. Now we're going to go into Skandasana. So down, up, down, up. Feel the inner thighs start to activate. And last one. Good. Excellent. We'll play with that idea of warrior 3 or a single leg deadlift as we bring the hands to the hips and just rise your right leg up and lower it down. Root down through that leg, rise your other leg up and lower it down. When the leg comes up like this is marching, but it's also hip flexion. There's a little bit of action happening in the pelvis as well. It has to tilt a little bit backwards. There's a little bit of action happening in the low back, also has to tilt into flexion. So as you go side to side, we're going to allow for that tilt to happen and not try to stay really upright. And we're also going to add opposite elbow to knee. So like a standing kind of crunch. And there are actions that we take in standing in yoga all the time that involve this motion, like a revolved side angle pose involves this motion. So last couple of repetitions. And last one. As you come back to center, bring the hands to the back of the head. Float the heart. Inhale, arms nice and tall. Exhale and fold. Settle and shake it out a little left and right, bending one knee and then the other, or just jiggling both of your legs. Shake out your head. And then your inhale, rise halfway. Activate your legs. Exhale, fold. Step your right foot to the back. Come into lunge. Keep the legs active. Imagine your block still there between the legs. Inhale, rise up. Press your palms together over the heart. And then bend your back knee and raise. Bend your back knee and raise it. You can tap it all the way down to the ground if you'd like. You can also come to your block or to your throw pillow. And then we're going to build on the same action we did a moment ago. Lean it forward. And this time bring your elbow to tap your knee. Squeeze the legs, tap. And tap. And tap. And tap. Right hand to the inside of your front leg. Left arm to the sky. And stay here or pivot your toes to the long edge, the left edge of your yoga mat. Stack your legs. And then everybody, if you want to, go ahead and take a vinyasa. Move through in whatever way would feel good, true, authentic to your body right now. Back bend, down dog, or child's. Now before we go to the other side, because we stepped back with the right, but we're about to step forward with the left, potentially, I want to talk a little bit about stepping forward. I have a great blog post on this that I'll try to add to the chat at the end. But essentially, when we step forward, foot between the hands, you need to do at least three actions, if not more. If you don't round your spine, your foot is going to land under your hips. So number one, you have to round your spine. Number two, you actually have to push your arms really strongly into the floor and not just round from the lower part of your back in a kind of soft way. You have to kind of make your arms longer. And number three, for the most part, you actually have to trace your knee a little bit out to the side to set it up between the hands, so external rotation. Now you can also do this with a block, right? But there's some serious core work happening, even using a block under your hand. So play with me in stepping forward a few times from table pose, or from plank or down dog if you prefer. And then do a few on the other side to match it. We're going to meet in down dog in just a moment. See how long you can allow your foot to hover before the foot actually settles down onto the ground. Whenever you're ready, downward facing dog, left leg rises, draw your knee, settle your foot up between your hands. Squeeze your legs to an imaginary midline, and then inhale, rise up. Okay, I got the wrong leg forward, but that's okay. We're going to inhale up, exhale, hands down, lift this front foot, and step it back. Optional vinyasa since we got out of the flow. Move through in a way that feels good to you. Connect to your core before you get to down dog. From down dog, right leg rises. Round your spine. Press the floor away. Really let your knee trace out to the side as needed. One last little tip, you can come onto your fingertips on the same side hand. I give you total permission. So right foot's closer to the right side of the mat, left foot closer to the left. Inhale, rise up, crescent lunge. Exhale, palms together over the heart. Go ahead and lean it forward 45 degrees. Bring the elbow to the knee and find your neutral. Elbow, neutral. Elbow and neutral. Elbow and neutral. Notice where your mind is, staying present. As you're ready, you're going to bring your left hand down to the floor. Right arm up to the sky. Stay here or pivot on all of your toes, pointing to the long edge of your yoga mat, keeping the hips nice and high. And then go ahead and root your hands. Step back, make your way through your vinyasa. Now you can actually do chaturanga with a little bit more of a forward motion than I just displayed. The reason I'm a little bit limited here is I'm running up against furniture. In down dog, just stay connected to your breath. And then go ahead and settle down to your knees. Cross at your shins. Punch into the floor a little bit. You can make fists or you can just push down with your hands. And I want you to rock back and unravel your legs out in front of you. You're going to draw one leg back. Let's say right leg draws back. Connect that leg like you're plugging it in. And then imagine there's this master puppeteer in your core. And it's the core that's actually going to lift the leg. And lower and release. Other side, draw it back. Master puppeteer. Lift. And lower. And then the first side. And lift. And lower, and keep up with this. So rooting, if you need your hands behind you, go for it. If you need to bend your knees, totally fine. And if you want more challenge, just lift, open out to the side, back, and down. So lots of options. I'm going to check that the sound quality is still good. Okay. Again, to make it harder, just go ahead and lift. Take the leg out to the side like you're tracing the letter T. And then enough of that, go ahead and cross at your shins again. See if you can stand all the way up without using your hands. And if you need to use your hands, that's also totally fine. We're going to step one leg back and one leg forward. It doesn't matter which one. Press your hips back, lean the chest forward, walk your hand down the leg a little bit. Bend and straighten your front leg a few times. And this is preparing us in a sense for pyramid pose. So we're going to actually go all the way down into pyramid. You can use your blocks here. You can touch the floor as I'm doing. You can still hold on to the leg. It doesn't matter. Remember, this is not a performance. It's not about what it looks like. It's about action. It's about staying present, noticing. And then from this pyramid shape, fingertips can come out. Back leg is actually going to lift up, come into a kind of a warrior three. I like to look under my chest, under my torso, and kind of turn those back toes down towards the floor so I'm getting more of the inner fibers of glutes and my adductors. So inner thigh lifts, toes turn down, crown of the head reaches forward, and then exhale and lower this leg. Shake it out. Hands to your hips. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Feel the muscles of your low back activate. Exhale, knees bend and fold. Step your right foot back. Rise up to stand. Exhale, walk down. So I did say the right foot on this time, but truly whichever one you had that's the opposite of the other side, that's great. Take the spine long here. Feel that everything's connected, your hips pulling back, and then keep the hands somewhere on the leg, on the floor, or folded down, wherever feels good for you. Lift through that back heel. Keep the toes pointing forward. Maybe think about what I talked about earlier in down dog, spreading the toes. Walk your hands out. Inner thigh lifts, leg reaches. And so you want to try to bring your leg as best as you can in line with the ground for that warrior three action here. Inner thigh lifts up, pinky toes point down, look under your belly. And then settle this leg, shake it out. Let your feet go a bit wider this time. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, fold. Come down into a squat. Bring your forearms onto your thighs. Rock a little right and a little left. If you have any kind of hamstring pain or tenderness at the backs of the legs, close to your buttocks or close to your sitting bones, you might think about kind of more chronically keeping a bend in your knees. A lot of times we emphasize things like straight legs for Ardha Uttanasana, and honestly, we don't need to. You can always have a little bend in your knees so that you're not yanking on your hamstrings. So from here, we're going to just rock a little side to side. Keep that little bend in the knees as much as you need or would like, and then bring your hands to your hips, lift your chest, shift to one side, take the other leg back, and float it up to warrior three. Draw your belly in, press through the crown of the head. Lower this leg, switch to the other side, lift it up to warrior three. Notice that I'm keeping my standing knee a little bit bent. Lower down, switch, and lift. Outer hip down, inner thigh up. Lower down, switch, and lift. Lower down, switch, and lift. And lower, switch, lift, and then lower all limbs up. Rise up, exhale, fold it down. Inhale halfway up, step it back, move through the vinyasa of your choice, or you can just stay and hang out in downward facing dog. So now we're going to play with a little hybrid of down dog and side plank that is dynamic and playful. So it goes with our theme of the get up and that shoulder stability stuff that we've been working on and how that connects to core and cross body actions. So here's what it looks like. From down dog, you'll take one leg, in my case my left, and you'll draw it in underneath your belly, and then you're going to pivot your other leg toes out and come through. Now this leg that's up, the knee can be bent or leg straight, whatever works for you. And up and back. Other leg, we're going to rise, draw the knee to under the belly. Don't worry about going fully into plank here. And then pivot and find the other side. Hands down, down dog. First leg, draw it under. Hover, pivot, find the first side. Back, down dog, other leg, hover, pivot, back, down dog, hover, pivot, back, and finally hover, pivot, and back. From downward facing dog, please settle back to your knees. And then just reach back into this kneeling position with your toes curled under if it is available to you. I know this can be hard on the knees. Not everybody's knees are going to be happy in this position, so feel free to be a little more upright or in any other sitting position that works for you. From here, if you can tolerate the hips to the heels, I'm going to ask you to play with a little bit of a different version of a get up. So from here, you're going to rock back and stand up. Now, if you've taken any other sitting position, any other resting position, you can also play with one knee up, then the other, and rise, or come up any way you feel like it. So from the back of your yoga mat space, you're going to draw your right leg up. Go ahead and step this right foot forward, just like we did before with pyramid. This time, have your feet on kind of a balance beam, an imaginary balance beam, so they're on the same line. You're going to bring one hand to your heart center, one hand to your belly. Lift your back leg and lean it forward. Find your way into this warrior three shape. Back of the neck long. Ribs and pelvis still connected. Inner thigh lifts. Inhale, rise up. See if you can bring your other leg up. And then step it back to the back of the mat. Stand on the right. Draw the left leg up. Exhale and set that left foot forward. You're going to have your legs in a narrow line. Chest is lifted. And then start to fold hands to the heart and to the abdomen or anywhere that would feel good to you. And inhale. Draw the right knee up. Step both feet back. Inhale, arms up. Exhale down. Fold it out. Downward facing dog. Widen the space between your feet in downward facing dog. Take a little bend in your knees. And this time we're going to drop back and forth a little bit, like we're doing that squatting action here in down dog. Squatting action on the back. In fact, make your down dog even a little shorter. And see if you can get your squat to hover over the floor. And then the straightening to actually happen more like a plank. So it's almost not down dog at all. So it's squat, hover, plank. Squat, hover, plank. Squat, hover, plank. And we've got two more, just like this. And then settle your knees. Cross at your shins. Toes can be curled under. If you can tolerate it, go ahead and stand up from here. See if you can do that without using your hands, just as an experiment. Stand on your left leg. Lift your right. Settle that right foot down to the ground. Pull the right hip back. Left arm is going to reach. Right hand's going to stay on the hip. We're going to reach, reach, reach. Come into warrior three. And this time, touch down to the ground. Or, my preference, to a block. Keep pulling the right hip back. Pull your chest forward, and this time maybe even pull the right shoulder back. So you're coming into a revolved version of this shape, a revolved half moon. Gaze to the floor, bend through the standing leg, and see how slowly you can settle back down to the ground. Warrior one or crescent lunge, all hands to the earth. Straight to down dog, or move through your vinyasa. And when you're ready, walk your way to the back of the yoga mat again. Rise halfway up. Exhale to fold. Take a bend in the knees. Shake out the head, shake out the neck. Stack your way right back up to standing. Stand on the right. Draw that left knee nice and high. Hands to the hips. Step this left foot forward. And we're going to move forward first into our warrior 3. Right hand down to the ground or to the block, preferably to the block. Right leg strongly lifted. Standing leg can have a little bend in it. And then start to shift your gaze. Notice how there's a tendency in this pose to want to back bend. Try to keep a connection between your low ribs and your pelvis in front of you. And then gaze towards the earth again, bending through the standing leg and slow motion, step it back. Stepping your front foot back. Inhale, arms rise. Exhale, fold it down. Walk it out, downward facing dog. Last, vinyasa. Try for a child's pose instead of a down dog this time. And then as you're ready, stacking vertebra by vertebra, if that feels good to you. Go ahead and shift your weight to one side, bringing your legs out in front of you into any comfortable seated position. We're going to inhale, arms up. Exhale, come into a twist. Have your hands land lightly. The muscles around your spine, your torso do the majority of the work. On your inhale, reach the arms. On your exhale, other side. Inhale, coming back through to center. Go ahead and walk one hand out, taking on a really gorgeous side bend. Looking up under your upper arm if that feels good to you. And inhaling neutral, take it to the other side. Letting the head be heavy or looking up under the other arm. Making your way back to neutral. Inhale, chest high. Take a couple of breaths here. As you keep your chest lifted, bring the legs out in front of you. Feel free to go into a little bit of a Navasana shape. And then walk your feet a bit forward. I prefer keeping the legs grounded for this, at least as you start to lower. And you're going to lower yourself vertebra by vertebra. Before you settle all the way down, float your feet off the floor for the final couple of seconds. Breathing into Ardha Navasana. And then settle down whenever you're ready for your Shavasana. If there's any final gentle movements that your body is calling for right now, pay attention. Notice what would really nourish it, as opposed to what would keep the fire going. Feel a sense of sweetness in your breath. Softening around the skull. A couple of recommendations. I recommend that you allow the support that you need in Shavasana, whether that's like a little soft pillow under your head, a pillow or blanket roll under your knees, or even just cushioning under your entire body. And depending on what you need to do after this, you may also choose to stay upright and seated, and to use this as a time for seated meditation. Both are equally powerful resets. Notice your breath. Allow your breath to help ground you, the physical sensation to help ground you, even as your mind inevitably wanders. If your mind has wandered again, just draw it back into this present moment with your breath, aware of your inhale and your exhale. Starting to allow the breath to deepen sweetly, softly. Invite a little bit of movement into your fingers, into your toes. If you need to stay in seated meditation or Shavasana for longer, of course, you're welcome to stay still, to pause this video. And if you'd like to join me in emerging from our pause, then continue wiggling, circling, anything that would feel organic to you, your wrists, your ankles, stretching long through the limbs. Gently draw your knees towards your chest. Rock a bit side to side. It doesn't matter which side you roll to. You can roll to your right side, which is very common in the world of yoga. And you can also roll to your left side if your right side feels a little more stifled in terms of your breathing, in terms of your nostrils, or whatever side would feel good. And gently press up, keeping your eyes closed. Find your way to seated. We acknowledge in seated the potency of this moment, the potency of presence, of awareness. We acknowledge that when we pay attention to the subtle voices of our bodies, that we can address them and make things whole and healthy again. When we pay attention to the voices of others, we can also create more yoga, more union, more less separation, less reductionism. And so that is truly why we're here today, why we're here to practice, is to bring ourselves into more union, our communities into more union. And the task is big, but I believe in us. And I want to thank each of you for showing up today. Namaste.